every single day because Oscar's right freaking there. just
right
constantly.
there.
So like if something were to go wrong, I'll know.
Yep.
Because Oscar will tell. Yeah.
I don't see it.
𝐜𝐥𝐨𝐬𝐞𝐝 ketchup. You get
We have to care about the agents.
Screaming at a drag show, so
put it right on his
right. I'm like, okay,
The pizza boxes.
Right.
So we
Welcome back. We're on the mic. I'm here with Kyle and Chloe French. You guys had one hell of an April, which we'll get into, but let's kind of walk us through, introduce yourselves, who you are, where you came from, why you're here. Let's roll with it. Who wants to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll start.
Boom.
From Jacksonville,
Okay.
born and raised, not going anywhere. I like it here. Yeah, I mean, I'm 23. I got into the business 2 years ago now.
Yeah, right.
Before this, though, I was a nanny.
Okay.
Time, no sales experience whatsoever. So I'm great at making like a peanut butter and jelly, but like that's about
That was it.
all I can offer. So it was a lot to learn. And then obviously Kyle and I have been together for 5 years now. We'll be married for 2. So we got
Sweet.
married and got our real estate license at the same time.
I remember that you like had just joined and they're like, oh yeah, they're getting married. And I'm like, I didn't know that you guys had been there. I thought like everyone joined because were you a part of the ISA situation first? Right.
Yeah.
Briefly, it was like you guys were in your license and married and moving on. But
Yep.
yeah, it was like,
So it was like a wild time frame.
yeah, literally it was like in, out, in, out. In. Yeah, exactly. So you're licensed 2 years now. You guys were still single agents though, even though like obviously you were who you were in your personal lives. When you came in here, you were single agents.
Yeah,
now
we
you're
sell
Probably
separately.
Right.
for like the first 4 months, maybe.
Yeah.
really, was it? I thought it was longer than that, but it was really only
I think
4
it's
months.
Probably about 4 months because we got our license. We got married in September. Got our license.
The week we got
Like,
back from our honeymoon.
Yeah, basically the beginning of October was like our first month of being licensed,
Okay.
and then I think we went basically like through the end of the year before we decided to actually like team up. It just made sense.
Yeah, because I think you guys were one of the first teams that had happened within the team. It was like you guys, then down the road it was Scott and Lauren
Right.
and Gene and Alan. Like you started snowballing, but I think you guys were the pioneers of the team within the
Yeah.
team within the team within the team's inception. So, all right, so you jump into real estate. Great. How did you kind of make your way here?
So I grew up in Tennessee, ended up moving to California once I graduated, got bored out there. My dad had moved here to Florida because of his job. So I ended up moving here, got into like bartending, restaurant management,
Sure.
stuff like that. And then went into car sales.
Okay.
So did car sales for like 4 years on and off. It was fun, good money, but just no life. Like
Right, just
70, 80
grind.
hours a week, just in one spot, in one location.
It's terrible. That's actually how we met, was car sales.
True.
You
So
buying a car?
I was buying a
She
car.
came in to buy a
yeah.
car. Yeah.
Yeah. So I came in with my dad. I was 18 at the time. This was 4 years ago. I was 18. I was with my dad. Mind you, my dad's really young, so Kyle thought my dad was my boyfriend.
Sick.
Me and her dad are like a 4-year age difference. So I got like a bro and a father-in-law like all at once.
Yeah. So he thought I was buying the car with my dad, whatever. We had to get through that because obviously I like this guy and he can't think I'm dating my dad. And so Kyle
So
sits...
number one lesson in objection handling right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did that, and then he was going to run numbers or something. My dad looks at me and he's like, "You like him?" I'm like, "Dad, I think he's a little old for me." Like I thought he was like 24-ish when I met him, and he was actually 28.
And
So
not that crazy, but still, right? I get it.
but
Right.
at that time,
Right.
it was too much. So I was like, I don't know. My dad's like, "No, you're gonna give him your phone number." I was like,
Ultimate wingman.
Yeah.
"Yeah." So Kyle goes to run numbers. He goes into Kyle's desk, steals his notebook. He's like, "Put your phone number in it real quick." So I'm like, "Oh God, okay." So I put my phone number in, and then I shove it back in Kyle's desk. We don't talk about it. He sells me the car, most expensive date ever.
Yeah.
And then
Had a boy.
he was walking me out, and I was just like, "Hey, check your notebook." And then he called me like 3 days
3
later.
days later. I don't want to seem too eager.
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like
and
March-
working 80 hours a week,
yeah.
you're just like probably saw it and you're like, what? And then like immediately forgot it because there's just 9 things going
Yeah.
on.
Waited till the 3rd day, called her, and then that was it.
We've just been hanging out for
Classics.
past 5
Pretty much
years now.
nonstop. Yeah.
Yeah. Classic sales move.
Yeah.
I love that. So you obviously, she took you out on the most expensive date ever. which is
Right,
great. She bought a
right.
car. Do you still have that car, or is it long gone?
She traded that. I got another one. So 2 cars out of that deal.
This is the most expensive.
Got her to upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, classic dad move of just like grabbing the notebook and then not knowing the phone number. Just like put your phone number in it. It's like
Oh yeah.
parents do the same thing. It's just like once caller ID happened, you can just like hit a button and just, all the numbers just out the window. Yeah, exactly. So when did the shift into real estate happen? Obviously,
Yeah, so
crazy hours in car sales.
I
When
was
we-
getting burnt out there. And,
Right.
I mean, obviously, just it was still like good money. I was doing well, but it was terrible. Like we never saw each other.
Mhm.
No time, no free time. So then at that point, there was a guy that I worked at the Carla with that had gotten into real estate
Okay, cool.
for this team. So he was like, hey, why don't you guys come try this?
Mhm.
And like we had kind of thought about it because she had started doing real estate courses like years ago before we ever met. And I had always considered it also, but it just like kept putting it off, didn't want to make the jump.
How weird is fate?
Yeah. So like we get together, we're like, should we do this? And
It's 10:30 at night, and we're like, are we gonna quit our jobs right now? We quit our jobs.
Like, both of us quit our
simultaneously.
jobs
Like
and
within the
just-
week, we were like, screw it.
like
We
if we're
both
gonna
quit
do
our
it,
jobs.
like let's just go.
Well,
in
and it was
full.
like kind of like COVID-ish.
True.
So like there was already like all this weird uncertainty.
It's like a
So
questionable time,
I was gonna say you guys leaving jobs, and most people are told you're leaving the job.
Yeah.
You're like we volunteer to distribute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
We definitely.
We just figured like it was the time to do it. Like we didn't have kids.
Yeah,
we
just
we had
strike.
the
Yeah.
pets, but like that was it. No
Right,
real like
Responsibilities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're not
mean-
caring for other people. Right, exactly.
so.
So you like, hey, that's it, we're done. Did you quit then course, or you were kind of like coursing?
No,
and
we
then-
quit because at that time they had the ISA position for us.
Oh,
So we
yes,
came in and we
right.
were just banging out like 300 calls a day, just setting up appointments for people. And obviously they were helping us with the training, like getting trained up, getting
Right,
ready
right.
for the test. But we were also planning our wedding at the same time, so that was crazy.
Yeah, that's a
In COVID, also.
yeah,
So we're,
right.
like trying
Ton
to
of
hurry up and
availability.
learn everything, but also like plan a wedding.
Yeah, that was a really cool program that actually had some really good success. A lot of good agents came out of there. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Chris Hughes, a ton of people too.
We
But
started the same day we did.
yeah, I remember you because it was the old Jack's office. It
Yeah.
was the ISA room, kind of. Yeah, exactly. Barely.
smaller.
No,
Yeah.
The whole building.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. So it was kind of weird in that, but I just remember like it was just like, hey, we need you to make these phone calls, this one, and the number kept climbing, and then we became agents because you were just laying up appointments to these agents.
Yeah.
Became agents, you're like, wait, that's all we have to make, and then of course,
Yeah.
so
Oh, it was
wasn't a shocker.
crazy.
And when it wasn't a shocker, when you guys became agents, you just started immediately ripping,
Yeah.
right?
It's
So-
crazy. We were talking about it the other day, like how much stuff has changed just in that time, like how much the company has grown.
Sure.
I mean, you guys were like up in the attic.
We
of
yeah,
the- of
and
that
it was
office,
just and it
yeah.
was just JoJo. We were
Yeah.
doing like barely any video. I was doing mostly video and trying to run ads and stuff. We had Reagan who was also taking care of social, like, and the team just kept expanding. I think Kelsey had just started, and we were just trying to figure out the listing thing. She was even more of like a TC even
I
than
think
when she was
CC
now.
room was what, like 4 people maybe? It
Was also super small. And like that was like right at the crux of like when things kind of started to explode. And it's because of people like you, right? Coming from other professions that were just like hard workers, right? Obviously you had an interest in real estate, so it wasn't that strange. You're just like, I'm going to turn around. You being in sales, obviously just pivoting. Now you're selling a different product. So it's not that weird. How did the start go? So like, were you guys off to a hot start once it was on, or did it kind of like take a little bit?
Very mild start. Like it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't hot either. Like we were just kind of like we had some things fall apart.
Right.
Like our very first deal, it was just chaos. Like the guy ended up just ghosting and just backed out, like lost his binder, everything. He just walked and disappeared somewhere. So that was like
A
our
lot of
first
weird
transaction.
Circumstances that came up. So it took, and also when we had started, fate had it where all of our things broke. Like my washer and dryer broke. Both animals had to go to the vet. Like his truck broke. Like we don't even have that vehicle broke.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
all the way. So it was like, oh my gosh, we were just like trying to keep
Want
up and
everything
we
at once, yeah.
quit our jobs. So we were just like,
This
it's,
is it.
It's sink or swim.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I would
we're
say
doing it.
so. I mean, October, November, December. I would say like January is we really started seeing it and started taking off more.
Right.
And since then, it's been really good.
Yeah. But obviously, there's people that they start and then they're like
right out the
27.
gate.
Well,
Look at Bradley,
yeah,
like,
well, that's it.
Bradley's insane.
Exactly. We
Right
have
out the
Bradley.
gate.
But again, that's like kind of like the, push pull. I think you guys coming in with that like sink or swim mindset is like
Yeah.
a huge edge, because some people are like, I really, really, really want to be in real estate. I know I can make some really, really, really good money. I also want to go to the beach, and then I also want to go on my buddy's boat,
Yeah.
and I also want to do this and I want to do that. And it's like, if this is how you're going to eat, like, do it, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of the times people get into real estate so they can make their own schedule.
Yeah.
And very little business is on the schedule. And then they're wondering why, right? I mean, somebody dropped this morning, there's this year alone, 12,000 realtors in our local market have yet to sell a home this year.
We're doing a transaction with somebody right now who mentioned that it was her first deal of the year.
What are you guys on? What number deal are you?
23, 24 maybe.
Oh, that's it? Good. Awesome. We're only at 23 deals, so that's good. Yeah, because I was looped in via Lindsey De La Sala on one of your executed numbers, and she was talking about the month of April for you guys, which was stupid.
Yeah.
Sweet month.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I want to shout it and then bleep it, but I'm not going to do that.
I didn't know
But-
we could. Yeah.
No, I mean you can. It's your number. I wasn't going to reveal that, but I'm like I was like shocked that was your mom.
It was again like one of those situations where we just like,
We sat down.
let's just go for it. And like, because basically we were trying to buy a house, and like obviously with her mom getting sick and passing away at the end of like very beginning of the year, like we kind of had like a slower start to the beginning. So we're like, all right, this is like kind of some extra fun.
Right,
We
let's
weren't
pick it
prepared
up.
for like whatever. I don't know if we're gonna be able to buy a house now. So we're like, fuck it, let's try.
Yeah.
And we just like banged out a month where we made 40,000, and like that got us like the extra money that we need to have for the house, do the upgrades that we wanted to do, and
Yeah,
we're,
because
like,
that's what I saw that, and she was like, "Okay, Frenches," and I think you guys were. It was because I don't know if it was forwarded or I was just like all of a sudden just in the email thread now, and you guys were like, "Why is Todd in this?" It's like a commission breakdown. Why is Todd here? But she was just like, "Okay, Frenches," and that's when I started kind of like, "Hey guys, let's get together for a podcast because your April seems pretty stupid." So yeah, that was totally wild. 40,000 in just April alone, which is funny because you're like, let's play catch up, and it's like now you're in a position to where you kind of know, not that you didn't know what the work it took to get there, but you're like, okay, if that's the month we need, we know this is how many conversations we need to have. This is whatever the workload is, because we have a competition going on now where, you know, we're going to have this pitch off. Luckily, you guys aren't going against each other, but Gina and Alan are going against each other.
Excited to see that one.
So the truth will prevail on who, you know, what's happening there. Because I always wonder that. I'm like, what's the dynamic, you know? Because like I see you in the office, but then you guys are executing a lot. So I'm like, okay, well, if he's here and not on showing, she's showing. So I'm like, the dynamic works really great. Obviously, being married helps.
Yeah.
Well, helps and hurts, but helps in the sense that like you trust who it is. You're not like, my business partner is just dogging it, telling me they're X, Y, and Z when like they probably canceled the showing. I have no clue, you know.
It works. I mean, there's definitely like situations where we can feel out who would be better for that person.
Smart.
Or if it's a couple, like we'll both try to go. It just depends on the situation. But like we've had some people that were like, I don't want to work with a man. So then I can just be like, hey, here's my wife. Like,
hey, here's my wife. She carries a weapon. Good luck.
And then there's been men that pick up the phone and laugh at me, and they're like, I'm not even gonna talk to you. And so I'm like, okay, no problem. And I'm like, hey, can you call them real quick?
Yeah.
And then they'll totally hit it off with him. So
that's all. And Scott and Lauren said the same exact thing. Like sometimes the dynamic doesn't always work because, you know, we have situations where people are calling and they're super gung ho, and like sometimes the customer's not like that.
Right.
They're super passive. They don't want you to jump down their throat, even though they might need it and they don't know that. But like, you can't just start. You can't just start off like that. Like the first thing you're gonna do is just not answer the phone. Like that's exactly like classic situation. I was getting a new car. I have people jumping down my throat because I had inquired about like what my previous car was going to cost, and I just happened to be bumping into somebody and talking to Courtney and this, that, and the other, and it's like they were just super, just like like let us know whenever. Versus just like, hey, are you still interested? Hey, you're still interested? So sometimes like it depends and you have to kind of cater to it. So where like jumping down your throat or you're just like, hey, still interested in that house? And then plus you're kind of saving your own time. And you're like, I'm not investing a ton of time because we see that a lot, especially in this investor market. Everybody's an investor. And then it's like, well, if I could show you this property, we can get it under contract today. Would you do it? And they're like, well, okay, you're not really.
Yeah.
So any kind of wild stories like off the rip that you can think of that you're like, okay, here's a pretty wild story about a showing or a client.
You got anything?
No, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's always something.
That's what I mean. There's always something. I mean, the broke agent makes a living off of just the absolute insanity that happens in real estate. I mean, car sales the same way. So when I was talking to Tori, she was telling me about a story about them trying to deliver a car somewhere that was bananas, like anything wild that you're just like learning experience. I mean, I love stories like that. Just like a learning experience. You're just like really, I always say you can't make this up, but like somebody wrote Star Wars. Like you can make it anything up, but it's just a matter of like.
There was the cutout on the floor.
Good.
That was interesting. Yeah, so
It wasn't really like
not
a
really
client
that crazy of a story, but like we just went to the showing. It's in Mandarin, like a little townhome or whatever. So we get there, you can tell that it's like very outdated. Looks like nobody's lived there in a couple months. We're showing it. There's like a little bit of a strange smell. I was like, all right, whatever. Like it's been closed up.
That we were showing.
Yeah, so she's excited. She's ready to see it. We go upstairs and there's just like a full human-sized cutout of the carpet, like all the way down to the subfloor. I'm just like, yep, that's
the death stain.
Yeah. So it was cut out, luckily, but
it was. But
So like the chalk marks that you'd see in like a movie, but just removed
razored out. Yeah.
and
of
then
the carpet.
all the way to the subfloor, but they didn't even try to like put another piece of carpet on top. They were just like,
Or-
screw it, we'll just.
or just cut a square
True.
like that. Like if I were in charge of that, they're like, hey, cut away this carpet. I'd been like 4 lines done.
Yeah.
I'm like, but that's like Step Brothers. They're like, it's all the asbestos. Yeah. Like they'd just be like, hey, I don't want this house to sell. What can we do? Just cut a human-sized hole out of the rug and just leave it there.
Yeah, there's some interesting things. I would say just it's crazy, like the things that people leave in the house for showings, like when people live there.
Oh,
It's like things
You
that
do
you
see
think
some
they would
crazy
put
stuff
up.
in
Yeah,
houses.
but just
even some of the stuff you see in listings, like
true.
when I was shooting them, I'm like, you guys knew I was coming today, right? Like, and you're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So we just decided to leave the bird cage just spilling with things everywhere. Like
Birds flying around.
yeah, I'm like, I get it, like, so it's just crazy what some people think. But again, like, obviously it's their home, they cherish it.
True.
But at the end of the day, you're leaving it. So like, just because, right? Like we walked into a house and no joke was like a straight up shrine to a baseball player. And I'm like, great. People are from New York.
Right.
Loved Don Mattingly. But the point is like someone
Most
from
people don't.
But and it's like I go,
A lot of
what if
people.
it's someone from, let's say, New York, but like that's a Mets fan. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're immediately just gonna be like, it's just weird that people don't understand that. Like, hey, you kind of got to figure this out.
It's interesting. Just finding like polite ways to have that conversation with people. Like, hey, we got
Right,
to
so,
move
I
these
mean, how do you-
roaches off the table? Like,
Yeah.
put this over here. Like,
Have had to do that.
I was gonna say, so you guys carry a couple listings. Have you had like any of those situations where you're like, guys,
yeah, we've definitely
Guys.
had
There's
some talks. Yeah.
definitely we've walked in that situation, and he has all of his illegal
Paraphernalia and everything.
all over the house,
beautiful?
and I'm like, what if a cop's showing the house? What if
Right.
what if a cop wants to buy the house? You're gonna leave all this out? And he's
Right.
like, oh, okay, I'll put it all away.
Yeah, you guys aren't narcs, right? Like, no, we're just
No,
telling
I
you.
want to sell your home.
Well, and not only that, we're telling you, general public is about to walk in your door. We're literally going to tell the world this house is
house is
wide open and for sale. Someone
Yeah.
can buy it. Right. Like a police officer just moved next to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a JSO sergeant, which I'm like trying to coax that thing, see if I can get some kind of card or some kind of PBA
Right.
benefit out of it.
Usually it's not bad though. Most people are pretty cooperative and understand like it's
Yeah.
justice. So
So do you guys kind of have, obviously you've only been in the industry now 2 years. Have you ever run into a situation where you're trying to like prove your clout of like, hey, this is why you're going to listen to me? So classic example would be like your sister. I remember we sold your sister's house, which was gigantic,
Yeah.
but I'm saying working with family, great opportunity. Did you kind of have to convince your sister, like, listen to me, or like your sister was just like, we're doing this. Doing this. I don't know.
It's funny. Like
Not
that
trying to
was-
dog your sister, by the way.
that
Sorry if
was-
she's watching. Sorry if she's watching.
No, we were actually just talking about it the other day because that was our first listing, and it was very much that way. Like, not that my sister didn't trust us, but she's got her neighbors in her ear. Like, she's got people at church in her ear, like that are
Right.
real estate experts. Like, even what they sold maybe 1 or 2 houses in their life.
Right. That's
Um,
expert.
So it was a little bit of a battle. Like, ultimately, she trusted us and
Mhm.
like took our word for it. But they were trying to go a lot higher than what we were suggesting.
Sure.
And then they ended up listening to us, and I think we got an offer for like 50,000-60,000 over.
So she got what she
where
wanted
I
anyway.
think we would have
Right.
missed. I think we would
I
have
think we
not
would've missed
gotten that
it, yeah.
high if we had initially like.
Which what a lot of people don't understand is how like buy boxes work, and like if people are looking in a certain range, and especially now with using other different platforms, like these different online bidding platforms that we've been trying out, is the list price is very much a marketing price now, and not really so much what you're going to fetch, which I think the consumer is super uneducated about.
True.
And I think that's where the disconnect happens, is they're like, let's just say they see $499. They're like, but my house is worth at least $525. I'm like,
We're gonna get there.
we're going to get there.
Yeah.
We're going to get there.
This is how we're gonna get there.
Exactly. But it's just a matter of like, I mean, everybody's just like low inventory. I'm going to wait. I mean, that's what part of like our competition that we have going on now is like, hey, what is your kind of like education to somebody who says this to you? Because again, everyone kind of has this like canned response of like what they think and what they hear on the news or social media, especially now. Obviously you have like, I just saw a really funny video. It might've been actually, I don't know, but it was like a 30-second tour and the guys like, they get out of the car and they're sprinting through the house. It's like the same guy that, I don't know if you've seen those videos because you're a good social media person. He's like always like skating in his house on like rollerblades, like doing the weirdest things. I think it's that guy because the guy moved the same way. And I feel like I recognize the layout of the house, but they're like doing exactly that. They're like sprinting in and out of rooms. And he's like, all right, great. All right. Up the offer. And then because that's how quick it is when kind of, if you work with us, you really don't have to, because we're seeing all these off-market opportunities. I mean, I just threw another one up in the community that I live in now, just on Facebook. I'm just like, hey, I'm going to list soon. Like, any interest? And I'm like, it's a dogfight to get into Beach Walk. So I can just throw this in and some people are going to start piling on. In a closed Facebook group, there's all the people who already live there. So what are some, as we kind of look forward to the rest of the year, kind of goals, aspirations? What do we have? Let's do business and then personal after. So business wise, goals. We're at 23. You already said. Yeah.
I think our initial goal was just 50. But obviously just increasing the quality of that 50.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
I feel like last year we definitely, like, being our first full year, like we were just overloading ourselves with everything that we could.
Right. What was the final number of last year?
38 maybe.
38. All right.
Yeah.
But now again, so obviously increasing it, which is always good, but now increasing the quality within that too. Sure. Okay.
And I think like we've made it a goal this year to like focus more on like making sure we are giving like full 110% to everybody.
Right.
Instead of just spreading ourselves so much, trying to just
deal after deal,
take everything that we can.
But in our first year, I mean, we didn't have any real estate experience. So we were just trying to get all of the knowledge, go through all of the deals. Like, let's learn all that we can in every house this year. And now I feel like going into our second year, we're much more confident. At this point, I'd like to think we know what we're doing.
Right.
And now
we've gotten way more referrals this year. I think taking the time to focus on
which is literally like the thing that I try and tell people. I'm like, everyone's so concerned about splits and this. I'm like, I get it. It's how you make money. That's what your takeaway is. The problem is you guys, and Jamie had it great. It was like, if you had a shoe store, we're paying for people to go into the store. At what point do you just like, yes, you can make more money just standing in front of the store, waving and shouting at people, but like, people aren't coming in. We have the thing of like, hey, all these people raised their hand. And exactly, I think I love that. The fact that you guys took on as much as you could, wanted to go through shit, wanted to get success stories, be like, wow, that was a freaking headache, because you're learning.
Yeah, you have to go through.
And now you're like, okay, now we know. So I think just generally, you'll probably increase the quality based on the fact of like, you can pick out a red flag as soon as it happens. You're like, yeah, that's going to be a nightmare.
And I think that's another great thing about like the structure of this team is like there is such a team aspect that like if we're helping these people and we have somebody that might be a great buyer, but they just might not be the best fit for us, or like we're already tied up, like we can definitely pass it to one of our teammates.
That's awesome.
Those people can still get serviced by the #1 team in Northeast Florida. But it's
perfect. I mean, that's literally the model, right? That's the model. Is exactly. It's like you don't have to put your business on hold when you go on your honeymoon, or if you're going to go on vacation. You're like, hey, somebody opened a door, this, that, the other, or just laying up an appointment. Just like, hey, these people, this is going to be a great experience for somebody. Maybe the price point's a little bit lower, might not be worth your time, but you're not just going to be like, hit the road, pal. Like it's like this person's still there. These people still need a home. You're like, hey, I'm going to pass it off. This person's new, super hot. I'll make the connection. Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is how we got as far as we did last year, is from other people doing the same thing with us.
I was going to say, I remember you guys scooping. So you won't remember this. I hope you do. But because actually you weren't even in the office. So we had a great layup appointment and it got put into the group and everyone's like hawking around because Kelsey actually had the thing, but we had, in order to keep it fair, had to go into the group, right? So she drops it into the group and everybody sees it and tries to hit a thumbs up. And what do you know? There's already a thumbs up there. Kyle French.
I do remember that.
Showings, and we get a call and from another agent in the office. He's like, do you know what you just did?
Yeah.
He was just like,
By probably just pulling out your phone, just seeing it go,
we
oh.
were like, oh yeah, good appointment.
Yeah.
Like, grab.
Who was your service
Happens
provider
to
at
be
that time?
looking.
Because let's plug them. Let's get a sponsorship for this show. Because you guys got it just like that, and like the office melted down. I mean, there were literally must have been
I remember seeing the
seven
video
or
of
eight
it.
agents, 7 or 8 agents just sitting here hawking at their phone, and we literally see Kelsey hit send. It goes in, and then just boop.
He's not even.
Yeah, that's when we started looking. We're like, oh, because normally we literally all the agents were there, but no you guys. And so I'm like, oh, it must have been like in the break or whatever, looking around, just not even there.
Nope.
It's
Yeah.
not even here.
Nope.
We were in St. John's, I think.
Yeah, we
Between-
were in between showings, like
For
grabbing a
us, yeah.
snack, and just happened to be looking at my phone. So it
Literally
worked.
incredible. So we're looking at 50 homes for this year. Any volume amount attached to that, or just kind of like units volume? Obviously, we're talking about quality over quantity, but is there any kind of like, hey, like 50 homes is great, but like I want to sell north of 11 million, 12 million,
I think we're at
20
10 now. So I mean, I think our original goal was 15.
Mhm. and you're already at 12, and we're
Anything over that would be
yeah.
20.
We're in June, so it's
20
month
million.
6. So we're nice. Yeah, halfway through the year, and we're already at 2/3 of the way to our goal. Yeah, it's not bad. So have we adjusted that at all, or we're kind of just like, nope, hit it. Sweet,
Well,
we're good.
Funny enough, we actually like stopped tracking everything this year. I really don't know where I'm at until I
Right.
see like you guys post it, or like we do like a quarterly recap. Like we'll get together and do like a quarterly recap of what we did.
Right.
But last year, because I know everybody does their boards, which is awesome, and it works
And
really
we
well
did
for
our
a lot of
board
people.
all last year.
But this year we just decided to like stop tracking it.
Just put your
I
head
would
down and
get
go.
too much in my head if I was staring at the board too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
So
what
we just stopped tracking it.
That's what we sat down with Brittany, the broker, and she was like, I was telling her, I'm like, I'm stressed, this is what's going on, because she always helps kind of navigate me through all of my mental breakdowns, and she's like, get rid of your board. She's like,
Yeah.
stop freaking out over the numbers, put your head down, get rid of the board, and I was like, okay.
And
So,
what?
and as soon as I did, I'm like, when you guys made that post, we were like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, well, I mean,
There.
I would say you guys are literally silent killers, because like you really don't make a lot of noise in the office. You kind of just like come in and do your thing, in the sense of like we always see people here always like not that you
Yeah.
guys aren't fun, but
Yeah.
like
No, I
do
know,
whatever.
I think the same
And all of a
thing.
sudden, I get looped into the email about the 40,000 in April. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Literally just silent killers. And that's funny that it stemmed back from Brittany, just like throw the board away, just get rid of it. Because right, you get in your own head, you see the numbers, you're like, oh my gosh, we're behind, not realizing you could have a crazy week,
True.
crazy weekend that totally turns that around.
Yeah.
And that's what we try and preach all the time. It's like, don't dog yourself because you're doing all these things and then it's not happening. It literally takes one great weekend to be like, oh, this is why.
Well, and that's essentially what happened when, we had the slow start, losing my mom at the beginning of the year. We were like freaking out. And we're like, I guess we're just pitching this house idea. Like, it's not going to happen. And then we were walking the dog and we were like, screw that.
Why?
We're
Yeah.
like, we're just going to do it. We were like, we have 30 days to knock out as much as we can. And I mean, essentially, we make as much money as the effort we put in. So we were
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah.
why not? And then we did, and we had a conversation. Like, once we got under contract, we're like, we did it.
Yeah.
We just said
Yeah.
we're gonna do it, and we did it.
So we're under contract on our own house now.
Yep. So it's closing June 23rd.
All right.
Johns County, baby.
Nice.
So yeah, we got a townhome,
We're at, well, like roughly.
Durban Crossing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. I think we talked about this. We're
Yeah.
like right in my backyard. Exactly.
So we got a townhome. We were originally gonna do a single family, and like we're only gonna live in it for like a year anyways, and then try to turn it into a rental, move on to something else. So we
Yeah.
found a
Perfect.
townhome where we were able to fence the yard, like put up a full privacy fence.
Yeah.
Because we have
Which
the
was the
pit
whole
bull.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've
Oh, it was
got
the dog,
the
right.
dog, yeah. So that was kind of a big deciding factor. If we were gonna do a townhome, like it had to be something we could fence in.
Right.
So this has like a decent sized yard, and it's gonna be easier to
Yeah.
maintain, easier to rent out. So
But that's a great case study in itself,
Yeah.
that this market is so hard, it's difficult, no inventory. You guys still found something that you needed that checked boxes for what you wanted.
Well, and I was sitting down looking at houses for other clients, and we were sitting down next to each other. I was like, wait a second, this checks all of our boxes.
Yeah.
Like, and I showed him, and he was like,
But that's what we,
follow.
and that's the best part, is like the push pull of like a passive and part-time real estate agent versus someone who's there, because when something like that hits the market, right, does it check our boxes? Does it check a client's boxes? And again, strapped for inventory, you guys were still able to sit there and you guys are buying, right? So
Yeah.
it's like practice what you preach.
Yeah.
Right? You guys didn't wait for the market. You didn't wait for the market to cool off?
yeah, not quite.
Why didn't you wait for the market to cool off?
because I didn't want him. moved when I was
Now's the time.
75 and waiting for things to cool down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, and obviously, like, as soon as we get this, we'll probably live in it for a year, rent it out, and then as soon as we close on this one, we want to immediately just start like trying to find another investment property. So,
Yeah.
Just keep all the investments.
Well, that's a rule in real estate. Is like if you don't have to sell house A to get into house B, don't sell it.
Yeah.
Right, because you're just going to constantly build that portfolio, and you got to start somewhere. So, outside of work, what do we like to do? Obviously, I know we have the Harley. I know about this. Talk us a little bit about that.
Got the Harley. Yeah. I mean, it's tough sometimes because I'm terrible with directions, so I try not to ride it too often. If I do have showings,
Sure.
I'll end up getting lost.
Oh my
I don't have a
For the
GPS
longest
mount
time.
for it, so I'm just winging it when I'm on there. But yeah, I mean, just riding the bike, working out. We're trying to make more time, obviously, to do more things that we want to do this year.
Sure.
Because last year we just overloaded ourselves. So we're like setting more vacations this year, more like little trips,
Well,
doing date nights every week.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
Brittany was like, you guys need to do a date night once a week. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just put it in your schedule and do it. So
So we actually bought this book off Amazon.
It's like the date book?
It is the date book.
Yeah.
So
Good
basically,
call.
it's like a
I've
lottery
got one.
scratch off type thing. You
Yep.
scratch it off. It
Got
gives you
one.
a date, and then we basically give ourselves a time frame of like we have to do
you
it
have
within
1
a week.
to do this.
So we've been trying to implement that. So it's been fun.
That's
Um,
awesome. Yeah, got one of those.
Yeah.
Yet to crack it open.
We got a couple vacations planned.
we
So
scratched a couple and we're like, maybe we'll do the next one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's tuck that one away. Let's see what else you got going. Yeah. Then you just
I'll
become
scratch the whole
then you just
book.
become gambling addicts because you're just
Right.
scratching off. You're just like, we're running out of scratchers. What do we do now? Well, awesome. Congratulations, guys. April, huge month. Obviously, we're only halfway through the year, so we have a long ways to go. So that 50, obviously, we just keep creeping. So again, we love you guys. Thanks for coming on. And
Thank you.
yeah, great rest of 2022. All right, this podcast sponsored by Audible. Matt's going to throw the link in the description. Again, if you're also interested in having success, like Kyle and Chloe, there'll also be a link on how to join our team, how to talk to an ISA, how to talk to a growth advisor and figure it out, and kind of talk you through your journey, because obviously, your journey can turn around just like them. Leaving in the middle of COVID, just quitting your job to immediately, hey, now we're living the life we want. So we appreciate you guys. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.